Weird science. Now, one of the very few good things of the pandemic of 2020 and 2021 is that game companies such as Renegade Games have also entered the business of making jigsaw puzzles. So now the same company is making some of my favorite forms of entertainment. So that's pretty awesome. This is one of the first puzzles released by Renegade Studios. It is 1,000 pieces and it is inspired again by classic pulp comics, or in any case, comics of the Weird Age, of the 1950s, of the EC era. So 1,000 pieces. Let me just first show you the puzzle in all of its glory. It's pretty large. It's slightly larger than most 1,000-piece puzzles, and I didn't even notice as I was solving it. I would say that each individual puzzle is just so imperceptibly larger than the average puzzle piece of this kind. Then the overall result is this really nice, fun poster. From the point of view of production, the colors are very vibrant. The quality of the reproduction of the image is very detailed. I don't think you lose any definition. When you see some of the, say, the color grids, they are from the original 1950s, which simply increases, I believe, the charm of the puzzle. From the point of view of production, the pieces are nice and sturdy, and they're not super thick, but not super thin either. There's something quite peculiar about the fit, and that may be just the first time, or as I recall it, I've seen this kind of fit of how the pieces fit together. Usually, the fit is tight or loose, or somewhere in between. And when the fit is loose, is because a little bit of room between the pieces. Now here's something interesting, because these pieces fit together perfectly. When you put them together, almost like they fall into place in a way that I've seen before, only with puzzles made of wood. Never with cardboard puzzles, but there's always a little bit of some resistance or friction. It's almost like, I don't know, did they oil the sides? Did they laminate the sides? Because they just fall into places like that. So there's this very strange thing about the fit, which is they fit tightly. You don't see any extra space. There's no wiggle room. But yet they don't hold together. Again, because it's almost like the edges themselves, the spaces between the pieces, no matter how close they are to each other, it's almost like they're smooth. So if we start lifting up, I would say most of the puzzles with this tight fit that you see, if I lift up a corner, I'd be able to lift up most of it with this tight fit. So it's tight, and yet they don't quite hold together all that well, as you can see from that pretty simple example. And this is the way it is. It's weird. It's a tight fit. However, that means that as you play with the puzzle, as you solve the puzzle, if you start putting together some pieces in one area and then you want to transfer them, they're probably gonna fall apart. You have to be careful, like you would with a puzzle with a much looser fit. So that's just unusual, and I don't think I had the experience solving puzzles before. Okay, no big deal. I solved plenty of puzzles where the fit is loose and you simply have to be careful as you transfer a section around. Now, it's fun. It's a fun puzzle to solve, because when you look at the distribution of colors and patterns, what you have are areas of vastly different level of challenge. The edges are very simple. This section is very simple, and you're warming up and feeling pretty pumped about yourself. The general image is average in terms of difficulty. The sky is interesting because you can clearly tell the difference between that and that now. But when the pieces are in the box, sometimes which red is which is not as obvious. But then you have the rocket here, this dude here, the shape of the dinosaur. These are all, or even more so that smoke from the volcano. Very easy to identify, very easy to turn into different mini puzzles almost. But then the ground actually was a little more challenging, a little trickier than expected. So again, and each is pretty easy, but then within that mini, so it's easy to tell, say, the dinosaur from the dude, but then the dinosaur itself has some challenges here and there. So the central area is just, I would say, the right level of challenge, whatever the heck that means. And then we get here where the title, which occupies maybe a third of the puzzle, well, gives you two different levels, because the first word, weird, is pretty easy, actually, a lot easier than I expected. But then the word science is by far the hardest part of the entire puzzle, the hardest section of the puzzle, because it's just very tricky with these zigzagging shapes. It's really hard to tell which part belongs to which letter, and sometimes the cut of a piece will just be there in such a way that it shows you the zig but not the zag, so it looks like you're in the middle of a straight line, but actually that's precisely when there's going to be a change of direction. So there are a couple of interesting traps there that I don't think they've been designed necessarily to be so, but they happen to be misleading when you solve the puzzle. However, very important, no false positives. That's a really important thing. I love solving puzzles, and like most people who do, I don't love re-solving puzzles because it was a piece that look like it fits somewhere, but it goes somewhere else. That just reduces the fun of the experience, and that was not a problem here whatsoever. So you have a regular grid, like very classic, with all the edges of the pieces touching, with variety of shapes and configurations within that. So what we have is an unusual image, and that's already good to me. That appeals to me because of the genre, because of the style, and as a puzzle image, it is one that has different layers, different levels of challenge, and so you're working, you know, switching gears, and it's fun to do so. Again, the fit is a little unusual in that it's tight but doesn't hold together all that well. But that's a minor thing. Very happy with the first puzzle that I ever tried by Renegade Game Studios. I love their games, and now I also enjoy the puzzles very much. So, yay, hooray, good stuff.